Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for our Global Leadership Series. My name is Felipe Martinez. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the Executive Director for Circle. Circle being a department at the University of Washington that has two primary purposes. One, to support our international student community, both undergraduate and graduate students. And second, to provide opportunities for domestic and international students to engage with one another. And the program that we have here serves for the first and second purpose, an opportunity for students, whether it be domestic or international students, to engage with alumni. And then what are some of the things that we can learn about the trajectory of our current alumni? And the topic for today is talking about specifically about alumni in STEM. And then here we have Vineeth and Shang Yang that will be able to talk about their experience. But before I turn it over to them and introduce them, let me give you an idea how the event's going to go. So, like I mentioned, it's an opportunity for students to engage with alumni. And the way we have this set up is that I'm going to ask both of them 5 questions. And those 5 questions will address things about their experience at the University of Washington. And then after that, we're going to turn it over to you and your questions. So, as Beneath and Shang Yang talk about their experience, if there's anything that, jumps at you, or if there's something, for example, that you want them to elaborate or ask a different question, by all means, and then just make sure that you include it in the chat. And as something that you already noticed is that this event is recorded. And the reason for that is because we're going to post it on the Circle YouTube channel to make it accessible for other students, because it is important, like the wonderful advice that they'll provide, it will be good to keep it on record so that way other students will be able to benefit. And then with overview of the very short program, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to introduce our panelists. So give me 1 second. Okay. So first, I'm going to introduce Shang Yang, who has been a steadfast Husky since 2011. He came to the University of Washington that year as a master's student in civil engineering after earning a college degree in China. 2 years later, he transferred to the PhD program and completed it in 2018, and he has been a postdoc at the University of Washington since. Shang Yang enjoys working with students with his research projects. He was part of the International Graduate Student Advisory Board at the University of Washington Graduate School for between 2017 and 2019, and he volunteered in various graduate school activities. He currently mentors one undergraduate student and one master level student, and he's always happy to share his knowledge and experience and stories with others. And then next, I'm going to introduce Vineeth Sai Naranjala. He graduated in 2020 with an undergraduate degree in informatics. He currently works as a security engineer in threat intelligence at Nordstrom's. Vineeth is a penetration tester who is learning malware analysis, threat hunting, and threat modeling. He's an avid advocate for open source, and his ultimate goal is to make the internet secure and accessible to all. In addition to his role at Nordstrom's, Vineeth is also an adjunct professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where he teaches cybersecurity courses. So those are our panelists. As you could see, very good people to have. So thank you both, Shang and Vineeth, for joining us today. So I shared your bio, but I was wondering if either one of you, both of you, sorry, if you wouldn't mind sharing with the students in the audience a little bit about yourself and the current role that I described on your bio. And either one of you could go first.
I can go first. I came to UW as an undergrad in 2016, and I came in intended as my major informatics and or CS, because you could choose two majors. And then after my second year, I got into info. I was really like active in campus communities like the ASUW. I was a senator at the ASUW. I was a liaison to the UW PD, and a few other organizations such as Unite UW. I was also part of Circle, I think, in my senior year, where I was part of the advisory board. So it was going through going through UW, ISS, Unite, and Circles really helped me, um, and I'm glad to like come back here and help and talk to you guys about this. As for my current job, I work as Felipe said as a security engineer. So my job is to basically protect our customers' data, credit card information, privacy. I really enjoy hiking as well, and I can't wait to start hiking. I think in like a week or two, the hiking season starts. So, yep, I'm excited for that.
Thank you, Vineeth.
Um, wait, so yeah, I'll take the turn. So I came here in 2011 as a master student. I think my original plan was actually a little bit different from what I'm now. So my original plan was actually I'm gonna finish the master degree and then try to find a job here and work for 1 or 2 years and then go back to China. But I think by the end of the second year of my in the master program, uh, I found that I just became more and more interested in doing research, and that's why I pursue like a deep academic career, and I transferred from master program to the PhD program, and yeah, so basically that's the story of doing a transfer. And so for during the PhD program, like like so everyone knows that PhD process. I mean, it's a long process, so it takes me about 5 years, and I earned my PhD degree like in 2018. So yeah, so I think since then become again a little bit different from what I have planned, because when I start my PhD program, my plan is that still like I earn my PhD and I'm gonna find a faculty position in China. But uh, but at the time of my graduation, uh, I just find it's very challenging for me to get a faculty position. Um, being as a fresh PhD graduate. So I think that's why then I start doing postdoc here. Yeah, so I think then my current plan is still I'm gonna do maybe 3 years of postdoc at UW and then find a faculty position. So yeah, I'll just see how this plan will work out, and hopefully there will not be another unexpected some inspection. So right, so I think that's basically my experience here at UW, and for personal hobbies, I share the hiking interest with Vineeth, and yeah, so I think the hiking season is almost here, and if any of the audience share the interest, and you're welcome to contact me, and I'm glad to group with you for a hiking trip.
See, and that's the beauty of living in the Pacific Northwest, right? Like the beautiful hiking and the outdoors. But before we transition into the second question, Shang Yang, I was wondering if you could, because probably some students in the audience may not know what a postdoc does, right? Would you be able to tell us a little bit, what does that mean, and what are some of the things that you do?
Right. So postdoc is basically a academic position. So I think the fundamental purpose for doing postdoc is doing research. So it's um, kind of similar as a so being a postdoc is kind of similar as being a PhD, but the only thing different is that when you do a PhD, you may be under the supervision of your faculty advisor, but during postdoc, I mean you are required to do research more independently. So um, basically you receive less advice from the faculty advisor, and many times you need to pursue your own research ideas instead of just doing those research projects provided by those faculties. Yeah, so yeah, I think mostly in most cases, postdoc is basically a transition period from doing PhD to find an independent faculty position.
Awesome. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, so moving into the second question. So there's some students in the audience who hope to have careers in STEM or STEM related work after graduation. Now, for both of you, when you're thinking back about your time at the University of Washington, either as an undergraduate or graduate students, were there any courses, experiences, some people that stood out, that stand out in term, and then helped you out to be where you are today?
Okay, yeah. So for this question, maybe I will go first. Um, right. So for the courses, I definitely will recommend everyone in the STEM major to take programming courses. I think maybe for this part, Vineeth have more saying, and you can let me add. But for me, taking programming courses, I mean, the biggest help of taking programming courses is that it gives me enhance the logical ways of thinking and also enhance my ability of problem solving. So I think some of you must run into a situation that you are given a task, but you don't know where to start. So I think if any of you is ever in that situation, so I strongly recommend you take a programming course. So when I took those courses, they were offered as a CSE 153 and 154, but I don't know what the course number right now because a lot have changed since I took those courses. Yeah, I think taking a programming course and also practicing programming actually helps you practicing those problem solving skills and also try to like decompose a very complicated task into those very simple steps. I think those skills is not only needed for those people doing maybe computer science and informatics, but also I think everyone doing engineering, mathematics, or STEM degree, I think actually need that skill.
That's good.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Because programming doesn't mean you have to go into like a software dev job or any of those jobs. It just means it teaches you to think in a certain way, which is more logical, as was said. So even big problems or the way you tackle problems, it's the mindset that is built while taking programming classes. That is what is I think is very important for STEM students rather than the actual coding itself. It is so when I think of a problem, I somehow default to the way I code, and everyone codes a little differently, and so um, I think of it in a very logical, logarithmic way. And so, like especially when you come to STEM, it's easier to work with bigger problems, as Xing Yan said, when you take problem solving classes. I would also recommend like standalone logic classes at UW. I think there are a couple logic classes at UW that force you to think logically. There are a few in the math department, few in the A math, and a few in the philosophy department. These courses push you to think differently from how you're used to thinking. And so it's all about the mindset when you go into STEM rather than, because a lot of people, when they come on the job, they really don't know much. And like, I would say 80% of the things I learned were on the job, but I was only able to learn on the job because my foundations were good, and I was able to think in a certain way. And that's what helped me.
So I appreciate, as a follow-up to this, that both of you are thinking about the skills. So you're talking about the importance of the skills that you develop in particular courses, right? So let's say, for example, that someone that may not necessarily need that programming class for their major, right? But they take your advice and then they take the class to be able to develop those skills that you mentioned, right? Is there a benefit to taking that class? Pass not pass. So essentially, to protect. How GPA is so important in some cases, so that way they take that class for the sake of learning, like both of you mentioned. Is there any advice that you give to someone that's taking those classes for the sake of learning?
Yeah, so there's multiple ways you could do a class. You could do the pass not pass. Also, you could just audit the class. So so if you do the CSE 142 and 143, the intro CS classes, there's like 1,000 people in the back when we were in person. Like it was a huge 800-person class. So you can just sit through the lectures, and the lectures are posted freely online. So you could either do that, so auditing the class, but also you can take classes that are not prerequisites for majors. So I remember CSE 160, 163, 154. These classes are not required by the major, so they are much easier than say CSE 142, where it's everyone in the class is trying to get into the major and it's like really competitive. And these are classes that are also like part of the programming courses, but not required for the major, are more lenient. They're geared towards students who are in other disciplines and are just wanting to try out programming. So and also it's graded much more easily compared to your major requirements. So there are a few classes. I think CSE 160 is a good one. Info 180. These are like the 100 level classes, except 142 for CSE are non-major classes, so anyone can take them and learn. My CSE 160 class was a lot of intersection biology. So we did things like we took the size like the human genome and tried to play around with it using programming languages. So it's a good intersection of biology, physics, and other parts of STEM. It's just not pure coding. So you can see the applications, real world applications.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vinny.
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely agree that uh, yeah, so yeah, so again, I think that the point of taking a program class for a student who's not majored in computer science or related majors is actually not maybe not to improve your like coding, how you code, but so again, I think it's to improve your problem solving skills. So I think from that point, um, I think so. When I took those programming courses, so I think the most helpful thing for me is the lectures and also the homeworks. So uh, yeah, I think so. Like when I took those courses, uh, I I really I was really enjoying those courses because like when I learned like how, for example, like sorting, like those sorting algorithms, like when I learned like how those sortings are, how the sorting is done, I mean I just feel like it's marvelous. I mean it's just smart. uh, so yeah so so again I said before, so when you take those courses, try to focus on like how those programming or and algorithms, how they decompose a seemingly like unsolvable problem into those like, small pieces and try to solve them in a logical way. I think that's actually something that maybe people will find actually useful, like when you encounter like later in your career when you encounter problems and not in computer science but more related to your major.
Thank you. And again, I appreciate that both of you are focusing on the skills and the things that we learn, right? Because as administrators, one of the things that we encourage to think about is that, yes, the major is important, but to an extent, it's more so about the skills that you develop in that particular major, and that you'll be able to carry into the professional world. So thank you both for emphasizing that as well. So now let's switch gears a little bit, and then talk about what I will encourage you to do is reflect on your experience, and then is there something that you would have done differently if given the chance to go back and change something? So, for example, would you pursue a different major, study abroad, join more student organizations, or join less? Is there something that you would do differently, and why? So, Vineeth, can you start us out with this one?
Yeah, I can start. Um, I would have done at least one quarter of study abroad, if not a full year. I know we are international students and we're technically already studying abroad, but as an international student, if you choose the right study abroad program, it's actually cheaper than to go to UW. So that's one thing I realized. So I could have done at least one quarter to study abroad, maybe somewhere in Europe or South America, just so I can study abroad. Can also like you can get some of your VLPAs and your INS taken out. So it's a nice way to learn. Um, I would have still chosen the same major, but I would have definitely gotten more involved within the major. I feel like most of my campus involvement was outside my major, and so I did not involve myself in like the student organization within the major. So the informatics has something called IUCA, which is the Informatics Student Association. I would have gotten more involved within the major. I would have also done sports. I really wish I did some kind of physical activity. I realized after 4 years how bad my body condition was, and so like I would have joined some sport to keep myself active and physical.
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely agree that for me, I also need more sports like during my PhD study. I mean, I mm, I had to stay in my office for too much, and yeah, I think staying in office uh, for too long. I mean, not. I mean, it's not only good, not only not good for my health, but also decrease the like the efficiency of the work. So yeah, so I think that yeah, I need more physical activities for during my PhD study. But I think one thing that I feel, I mean, from my perspective of my career, I feel that one thing I would have done is that I would seize those opportunities. I mean, no matter I'm ready or not. So I think that this is actually some stories when I was in the last year of my PhD study. So I mean, at that time, I only have like 3 publications. Some of you don't know. So publication, I mean, the number of publications is a very important measure of your academic achievement as a PhD student. So at that time, I only have 3 publications, and I saw some very good faculty position opportunities in China. So and so then they're really like my dream of job opportunities. But because I had so few publications, so I just feel that I was not ready for this position anyway. Um, or, or in other words, I don't feel like I'm really competitive to get that position. So I didn't apply for that, of course. But later, like when I talked to my colleagues, they told me that the person who get that position actually has even fewer publications than me, and the reason why the university recruit him is because he gave a very good presentation, uh, and also I mean just very not that many people apply for that university, so they don't have a more appropriate candidate. Yes, I think this is actually a lesson for me. So I think what I learned from this experience is that when you see an opportunity, I mean, just go for it. I mean, no matter you feel you are ready or not. I mean, you may feel you are not ready, but other people may not think so. They may think you are ready and maybe even the best candidate for the place.
In the U.S., thank you, Shang Yang, for saying that. In the U.S., there's this saying. Well, there's a couple, right, that exemplify what you just mentioned. One of them is that you can win if you don't play, right? So you don't know whether or not you're gonna win and get the job unless you actually decide to play, or we usually say throw your name in the hat. So it's like pursuing those opportunities. It's important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Many times it's just that no, I mean the time when opportunities appears and the time when you feel you are ready and for the match. So when those opportunities there, I mean, you may not feel that you are ready, but when you feel you are ready, those opportunities are already gone. So
Thank you. And then see that you're back. Are you able to unmute yourself, Vineeth?
Yeah, I can. My bad. I think something's up with my internet suddenly.
No worries, sir.
Yeah.
Shang
Can
and
you see
just
and hear me?
yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so thank you both. Those were great answers. So now let me go into before I transition into the fourth question, remember for those in the audience, if you have any questions or any reactions to what Shangan and Vineeth are saying, please make sure to type your question or your reaction into the chat. So the next question. So I talked a lot about, one of the things that we tell students, like you mentioned, focusing on the skills, or like Shanging, like you mentioned, making sure that you seize those opportunities. But one of the things that we also talk about is the importance of mentorship. So my question to you both is, were there in your experience any mentors or people that helped you along the way in order for you to reach your professional path? And if so, how did you establish those relationships with those mentors? If you wouldn't mind sharing with us.
sure, yeah, I'll go first for this question. So yeah, so for a PhD student, actually, so I believe every PhD student has a faculty advisor, and from a certain perspective, faculty advisor actually serve as a mentor for the PhD student. So that's definitely the case for me and for my faculty advisor, Professor Cynthia Chen. So yeah, so as I mentioned before, so I came to US as a master's student. And the convention here is that for a master's student, um, usually a master's student is not assigned a faculty advisor. I think that that's the case for me too when I first came here. So how I mean the way I got in touch with my faculty advisor uh, is that so I think by the end of the second year of my master in my master program, I just feel that I want to do research and I have a very strong interest in academia. So and yeah, so and honestly speaking, I actually I don't know what my current faculty advisor was doing at that time. So I just but because so my interest at that time is actually in the disaster resilience and basically how people survive a disaster and the response to it. So because I have this strong research interest, so basically I just decided to do some research myself. I mean, no matter what what those faculties are doing. So I just start my own research. I try to collect some data from Twitter and did some very small analysis of the data and to see how people are talking about disaster, how people are responding to a hurricane happened in 2012. Yeah, so basically I did that part of the research, and then I bring that research to my current faculty advisor, Professor Cynthia Chen, and she's actually and to my surprise, she was very impressed. So and I think yeah, so I think that's so then I became very lucky, and and she recruited me then as a PhD student, and then I started doing research with her. So basically that's the story how I get in touch with my faculty advisor and also mentor. Yeah, and the help I received from Professor Chen definitely is not just in how to do good research and also to gain some expertise in in my domain. But also, I think the biggest thing that uh, I learned from her is actually the way of thinking. So and the way of and how to approach a problem. So I think that's that. So I think her ways of thinking not affect how I like how I solve like a academic problem, but also many how I view many things in my life. So yeah, right. I think yeah, I think that's definitely something that a mentor can help. Uh, and otherwise, yeah, I think that's pretty much the story that I have with my faculty advisor and also mentor.
Thank you, Shang Yang. Vineeth?
Yeah, so I unfortunately did not have a mentor in my junior.
Vineeth, you're sounding very staticky right now.
Uh,
It's the same.
Let me try
Oh, there
something
you go. There
else.
you go. There you go.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, so I unfortunately did not have a mentor until my junior year. So everything I did until my first 3 years was just trial and error and the internet. I read as many like pieces of articles as I could. I saw what other people were doing. The reason I didn't have a mentor until my junior year is one, I never thought I needed one. Which hindsight was, I think I should have had a mentor, because it's when you have a mentor, you can learn from their mistakes. But when you don't have a mentor, you have to learn from your own mistakes, and it's always better to learn from other people's mistakes and your own mistakes. Sorry. And so my first mentor was actually my mentor at work in my first internship. He guided me like how like towards career and how to like work on it, and he gave me a lot of like technical advice as well. But just in terms of like growing through UW, I I I would say the closest person who was a mentor to me was probably my professor in the information department. Um, and the professor now doesn't work there anymore. But his name is Dave Stearns, if anyone knows him. But he really pushed me to explore new things. In the beginning, I was in data science. I never thought about cybersecurity, and he was the one who implored me to do security. And right now, I'm working in a security related field and security related job. So I think there are many opportunities in UW to get a mentor. There's mentorship through the actual UW, where you can find ex-graduates who will mentor students. There's mentorship within every department. There's also a lot of clubs on campus that offer mentorship, like UW does, International Student Mentorship Program. There are a few others, so I would highly recommend everyone to try to get a mentor, because it's always, again, better to learn from someone else's mistakes than go through the whole cycle and do your own mistakes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree that everyone, I mean, not only for a graduate student or PhD student to find a mentor, but also, yeah, everyone, I do agree that everyone should find a mentor. Yeah, I think one thing I forgot to mention about that, why a mentor is important for me during my PhD study is that I think the career advice that a mentor provided is actually very critical for when you get ready and when those opportunities appear. I mean, I mentioned before that I feel not ready when there are opportunities there. So it's best that you get it ready before those opportunities appear. So how to get it ready? So you need so this is the part that your mentor can provide your advice. So for example, when I talked to my mentor, Professor Chen, so she said a lot about like in order to find faculty position, like what you need to do this, you need to do that. I mean, how many publications you need to have, like how many projects you need to do, like yeah, so etc. So yeah, so in many times, so when you start your career as a student, so you don't know like what you will be leading when you are in the job market. So I think that's when a mentor's advice will be really helpful for you to plan for your career, like what you should do, like in the short term, like for example, what course you should take. I mean, or in the long term, like or in the long term, like how whether you want to like whether you want to stay like in the academia or go to industry. So yeah, those are really like big decisions. Uh, Sometimes you cannot decide on yourself, or ask your friends, because mostly your friends are at the same age as similar age as you. I mean, the advice they provide you may not be on than what you think yourself. So I think that's when you really need someone more senior, more experienced in your domain to provide those advice.
Which is related to what Vineeth was talking about, right? Like through a faculty member, he was able to find essentially the career that he's doing right now. So this has been great. Thank you both. And then one of the things that I appreciate about your answers too is that you talked about how that mentorship could happen inside the classroom or outside the classroom. And the important about it is that through those relationships, you're able to learn from their experience, right? And then be potentially have more opportunities presented to you or learn from their trajectory so you know how to position yourself once you're ready to look for those opportunities. So thank you both. So the last question that I have. So there's students that want to be in your shoes one day, right? Work in cybersecurity or get a PhD and eventually postdoc and then be involved in research. Do you have any advice or words of wisdom for students that essentially want to be a couple years down the line?
I can go first for this. Um, so I would highly recommend starting early. So by starting early, I don't mean you should know what you need to do in your freshman year. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's like, but I would recommend you start thinking about what you want to do early on, so you can try and explore new things early on, rather than exploring in your senior year and finding out you've totally found something you really love 3 months before you graduate, and you found something 2 years before you graduate. There's a huge difference in that time where you can work towards and learn and improve your skills in the new place that you found that you like, rather than just 3 months. So for especially for like tech, in the tech space, I would recommend joining clubs like women in tech if you're a woman. And there's a lot of organizations like Grace Hoppers. There's um, especially for freshmen and sophomores, you can still get summer internships which are more open-ended, in the sense the companies let you explore different roles, so you can see what you might like early on, rather than just looking at, oh, I just want to become a software dev. There's many roles within the tech industry, like there's technical program managers, there's TPMs, there's PMs, there's product managers, there's UI UX. There's a huge subfield within the tech space, and I would recommend thinking and starting a little early. Um, and this is where the mentorship comes in play. It's hard to know where to start, and so trying to get early mentors and who can like guide you and like give you information as to where to start, how to start doing this, building your resume skills, your career skills, your LinkedIn skills, like basically life skills that'll help push your career in STEM. Um, you can start early. These don't require a lot of time. These are some things you can just do like once or twice a week, and it'll really like give you a head start. Um, Especially the more competitive the world's getting as time passes, it's getting harder to like break in. So starting early is one thing I would highly recommend. And the last thing I would recommend is networking and building connections. Um, there's no other time in a person's life where you can just cold email someone and expect a reply. If you graduate and cold email someone, you can be like, hey, I'm jobless, can you like do something? But instead, if you say, hey, I'm a student, I'm interested to know what you're doing, I would love to get a coffee with you, that is so much more powerful. Use your student card as much as you can. Network as much as you can early on, because um, it is through this, over time, it is through your network you will get new opportunities, better opportunities, and opportunities that you would have never gotten if you didn't know that person. So starting early and networking are the two biggest. If you could just take two things away from what I said, it would be starting early and networking.
Yeah, definitely I agree that starting early is a key. So what I want to add here basically is that start early and also pro proceed firmly. So that means so when you start and have a plan, try to stick to this plan and do not change too frequently. So again, this is some of my own experience, and I think the reason why I was not ready when I earned my PhD degree is that so during the entire PhD study period, I constantly like have this mindset of switching between whether I should stay in academia or whether I should go into industry. Like I don't have like this constant uh, I mean determination like to I mean to just stay academia and do good research. So sometimes I think, oh, I should stay in the academia, find a faculty job. Sometimes I saw that, oh, maybe I will be more successful just being a data scientist. Sometimes I just think that, oh, maybe I should just go into the industry and try to work as a consultant. So I think constantly like switching between those different paths, I think kind of, I mean, not only make me very exhausted, I mean, preparing for all those passes, but also, um, yeah, I think that make me like a very unprepared in either of these three passes. So, so yeah, I think yeah. So then, so my recommendation is really that. So when you make a plan and decided what you want, try to stay in this path and stick to what you plan. I mean, yeah, I think that of course does not say that you should never consider changing your path, but it's definitely a bad idea that today I want to stay in academia. Tomorrow, I change my mind, saying that, oh, I want to work in the industry, and then the day after tomorrow, and I switch back and saying, oh, I want to stay in academia again. That's definitely not a good
And then in order to be able to kind of like identify that path, students could use the advice that Vineeth gave them when it's like network, learn from people to try to figure out from their trajectory what are some of the things that they could do. Um, this has been awesome. Thank you both. And just as a reminder for the folks in the audience, if you have any more questions, uh, please put them in the chat. Um, but while we wait for some questions before, what I want to emphasize again is the what both of you mentioned in terms of starting early, right? And then starting early, that doesn't necessarily mean that you know what you need to know specific what you need to that you want to do, but rather start early exploring, right? And kind of like identifying that path like you mentioned, so that way once you're a year or two into the university, you have a better sense of what is it that you want to do, and then follow that path like you mentioned, Shang. So that way it makes it easier, right? Or like Beneath mentioned, like it's easier to ask someone for help if you're still a student, as opposed to like you graduated and now you're looking for that help. So I thought that was very powerful. Thank you both. Okay, so If we don't have any questions, any parting words for people in the audience before we close it out?
I would also say take care of your mental health.
Yes.
That's really important, especially these have been tough times for everyone. And so getting some physical exercise will really help you out. Just going out, taking some time for yourself is really important. Because if you don't have a sound mind, it's really hard to achieve your goals. And so I would say take care of your mental health.
Yeah, so what I want to say is that study is not only saying that when you are a student. So yeah, you also pay attention to like your health, especially physical health. Don't stay in the library or the study room for too long. Try to have some physical exercise every day because a good health. I mean, so I think that this is something that basically it's a loop. So if you have good health, basically you can work more efficiently, and you work more efficiently, you have more time to do exercise. So yeah, so yeah, do pay attention to your physical health and try to exercise, and also care about your friends, your family. Um, I think their support for your academic success is actually very important.
I appreciate both of you saying that because a lot of for especially for STEM majors, right? All of you are under extreme pressure, so it's very important to make sure that you take care of yourself and, like you mentioned, exercise. Because at that point, if you're healthier and you're taking care of yourself, then your studies in turn will also be better. So thank you both. I'm going to stop the recording now. Yeah, I didn't.